Okay. So we're going to launch. I think the internet's kind of having an issue here today. It's so slow. I'm sorry. We'll get through this together. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to mimic a student so that way I can see what you guys see. And then we'll get started. So go ahead, pull up your reading comprehension. Since I think I solved that, which I'm pretty proud of myself if I did. And yeah, it's got the puzzle pieces. It says reading comprehension.
I pressed connected, but nothing's showing up.
Can you go into your settings on your iPad and like your whole system settings? And if you go to settings on that left-hand side, you're going to scroll down to where it says Safari. And then when you find Safari on the right side, there's a button that says allow pop-ups. I think it says allow pop-ups. If you turn that off, so it should be gray. And then once you're there, once you have that turned off to gray, then if you go back, it should work. Mackenzie, yes. Mackenzie R. Olivia, Nevaeh, you all have your hands up. What's up?
I just joined. What's going on?
So we are on our online textbook right now. We're going into Connect Ed. So if you go over on Canvas on that left-hand side, it'll say Connect Ed. You click on that to open up our textbook.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yep, Olivia.
It's only letting me sign in from a teacher or parent.
What do you need to sign in? What are you trying to sign into?
Oh wait, never mind. It's Quizlet.
Oh yeah, we're not on Quizlet. Yeah, we're on StudySync. Nevaeh, you have your hand up.
It only shows the Ricky Tikki Tavi first read for me.
Yeah, you need to try to refresh your screen.
I already did.
Okay, then get out of StudySync altogether and then reload it from Canvas.
I did that twice.
Okay, I'm not sure why, because I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I guess the only thing you could do is try to like get rid of the program by swiping up on your home screen and then opening up Canvas all over again. You could try that. That would be my next step to try.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Mackenzie, you still have your hand up, Mackenzie R. I just want to make sure that you're good to go.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Okay. All right, let's do this, guys. So we're going to go into reading comprehension. Okay. It's the little one with the puzzle pieces. So first we have a video that we're going to watch that goes along. We're kind of starting to get into a groove with these. I know we paused for a little bit on StudySync to do some constructed response, but now we're getting back into it. So we're going to watch the video first, then we'll go on to do some vocab and modeling, and then a your turn. So here's the video for reading comprehension.
Don't mind me, I'm just here reading Hamlet.
Yeah, it might help to turn the book right side up.
I cannot read this. It is incomprehensible.
Sounds like you could use some reading comprehension strategies. If you ever feel overwhelmed by a book,
Remember, you're not alone.
even really strong readers,
Even academics who have spent their whole lives reading big, complicated texts,
even they get overwhelmed.
which is why you gotta have your reading comprehension strategies.
First off, try establishing a purpose for reading.
Are you trying to learn about a particular subject?
or looking for a thesis.
Knowing why you're reading helps you to track what you're looking for as you read.
Another strategy is to generate questions.
Ask yourself, what motivates a character to act this way? What is the author trying to say?
Then there's the kinds of tools that change a person text to text. Like, for example, it may be helpful to read plays out loud.
Are you saying you'll read Hamlet out loud with me?
Guess I kind of walked into that one, didn't I? First, let's review.
Okay, so when you think about reading comprehension and the importance of it, I want you to think about this. This is the easiest way to kind of think about your reading comprehension, your level. You've been reading a book before, okay, and you get down to the page and the bottom of the page, and then you realize, I don't remember anything that I just read. Okay, we've all done it before, and that is your comprehension coming into play. Okay, so sometimes our mind travels, okay, into other areas of our life when we're reading something, and then we read the words, but we don't comprehend them, meaning we don't ingest them and understand their meaning, okay, and how they're put together in a sentence. So that's one example of reading comprehension, just whenever your mind just wanders. The other thing is not understanding what your text is about altogether. So if it's a challenging text, something that you find really hard to understand, your reading comprehension is also not going to be where it needs to be, because you're just trying to make out what the sentences are, okay, how they are put together. So it says down here underneath the video, do you ever reach a point in your reading where you no longer understand what is happening? Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the information in a text? So many readers sometimes share this feeling, but there are reading comprehension strategies that can help you. So those reading comprehension strategies that they are similar to the annotating strategies that we also discussed with one of these lessons, okay? So setting a purpose to read. So why are you reading what you're reading, okay? And then generating questions as you're going. Kind of like also writing a summary, okay, after each paragraph or after every couple or third paragraph, just to understand exactly what you're doing and what you're reading. So later on also, you don't have to go back if you're looking for an answer to a question, you can look at those annotations. We talked heavily about that as well. So reading comprehension is just how you take things in, how you understand your text. It's kind of like if you watch a movie and you're telling your friend about a movie that you've watched and they say, well, what did you like so much about it? You're comprehending, you're trying to comprehend what you remember from that movie to tell your friend all about. Same with books. You're comprehending the story so you can tell your friend all about that book and try to get them to read it. Okay, so that's reading comprehension. We're going to go ahead and do some practice with this. So I want you to click at the top where it says number 2, vocabulary. We just have 3 vocabulary words that go around that go with this. So we have generate, questions, and purpose. Those are strategies to use with reading comprehension. And then we just have reading comprehension strategies. Okay, so the first one that we want to tackle is, let's just say, the reason for or goal of doing something. What word is that going to match up with? What word are we going to drag and drop into that box? Maria?
Purpose.
Good. So drag and drop. The reason that you do something, it doesn't matter if it's reading. It doesn't matter if you play a sport. It doesn't matter if you like to cook or bake. There's always a purpose as to why you do something. All right. And you set a goal for yourself, a goal as to why you do it. Okay. All right. To ask and answer questions before, during, and after reading a text. Where are we going to drag and drop that to? Someone new, please. My girl Maria always has her hand up and I love it, but let's get someone else in there. So once again, to ask and answer questions before, during, and after reading a text. What is that called? Tamana, thank you.
Generate questions.
Good. Drag it and drop it. So when you ask questions before the text, during and after, that is showing reading comprehension as well. Okay. Even whenever you make inferences throughout the book, like, oh, I bet this is going to happen next. Okay. That's another strategy. It's not listed here, but that's another way also that you can kind of check your comprehension, because you're using those context clues. All right, so you're generating questions and then saying, I bet this is what's going to happen too. Okay, so let's just double check that we have the correct definition for reading comprehension strategies. So ways to approach a text that help you make meaning of the words on a page. Yes, that's our definition. So we're going to drag and drop that. So go ahead and triple check, double check that you have the correct words that are in the vocabulary box. And whenever you are ready, you're going to scroll up and hit number 3 for model. I'm going to click number 3 for model now as well. All right, so we're going to look at an excerpt from Rikki Tikki Tavi, okay? And then we're going to go through with the reading comprehension models, okay? So our directions, you always read the directions, guys. That's so incredibly important, okay? Because sometimes it'll tell you, it's not trying to throw you off in any way, but sometimes it'll tell you to do something or not do something. So please make sure you're always double checking those. It says review the checklist for reading comprehensions below, then read the skill model to examine how one student used the checklist to practice reading comprehension while reading Rikki Tikki Tavi. As you read, explain how the student used the checklist for each annotation. There's that word again. That's why we went through annotation, because reading comprehension and annotation go together. All right. The reason that we have reading comprehension strategies is to help you with annotation. The reason we have annotation is to double check what you are reading. Okay, to ask those questions or to highlight words you might not know, to summarize what you're reading. Okay, so the checklist, in order to develop and deepen your comprehension of texts, you preview the following reading comprehension strategies. So there's a whole list, okay, of strategies, but we covered 2 in that vocabulary. So you set a purpose. Why are you reading whatever you're reading? You can't just say, oh, because someone told me to. That's not setting a purpose, okay? You set a purpose by saying, okay, I'm trying to get some more knowledge on this topic, or I'm trying to answer a set of questions over this poem, whatever. You can generate questions, make and confirm predictions. You can visualize. Okay, that's important for reading comprehension. So one book I always think of with visualization for reading comprehension is The Hunger Games. If you've ever read The Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins does a really, really good job of helping you visualize the setting or visualize what's happening in that book. Okay, so making these visualizations of your head, okay, of what a character looks like or what a setting looks like. Okay, making connections, so making connections with your characters or the settings or whatever, making inferences, evaluating the details, synthesizing, and then monitoring comprehension. So kind of stopping and checking with yourself, maybe at the end of each page, or if it's a shorter text, the end of each paragraph, as to what you are recalling, okay? So as you preview these strategies, then you ask yourself these questions. Which types of texts might this reading comprehension strategy be useful for? And then how might it help me in the future? All right, so let's do this as far as, because this person already has it modeled. We don't need to go through all of these, okay? But we'll get a good start on it. So setting a purpose for reading. Purpose means you establish a reason why you want to read something, because you're going to be more likely engaged in the details. All right, so if you just say, well, I'm reading this because someone told me to, you're not going to be engaged. Okay, set a purpose. Maybe it's a passage, or maybe the information in it is something that would pique your interest. It's something you're interested in. So you're reading for more knowledge. Maybe someone's trying to persuade you to do something, okay, or try to think, get you to think their certain way. So maybe that's the purpose. Okay, maybe I'm trying to see it from their point of view. Okay, so here is an application to a 7th grade text. Okay, so it's not going to be necessarily with Rikki Tikki Tavi for this. It's just 7th grade text that they are making this reading comprehension strategy into use. So it says, why do we refer to and we beat the street? What does the we, sorry, refer to and we beat the street? I'm interested to know more about who this book is about. We had also, whenever we set a purpose for Rikki Tikki Tavi, I told you before that this was based loosely on the Jungle Book. Okay, so that kind of helps you set a purpose too. If you've seen the movie The Jungle Book, you can set a purpose for that. Like, oh, I might see similarities then, so I'll learn more about the story behind that. Okay, for generating questions, that's asking questions before, during, and after reading, because then that identifies areas where comprehension can be improved. Okay, so application to 7th grade text says, how did one morning in December change Gary Paulson's perspective? Okay, is one question you might ask, because that helps you understand the author's relationship with nature. Do you remember back when we were doing annotation and context clues, and the first line of that story was, this is the story of Rikki Tikki Tavi, who fought the Great War in the bathrooms of the bungalow, something along that line. And our question was, wait, why is he fighting this war in a bathroom? Okay, so we generated a question there because we're testing our comprehension. You can make and make and confirm predictions. It allows you to keep track of characters and events as it develops. So when you make that prediction, you're saying, oh, I wonder if this is going to happen next, or oh, I bet this is going to happen next. This has happened in another book that I read. So here's another example. Make and confirm predictions as the narrator and her family try to get to the bottom of why the military police are watching their family's house and before we were free. These are all examples from the Unit 1 text that we'll look at, by the way. If you're like, where are they getting this text from? This is in the Unit 1. Visualizing, so creating pictures in your head that can determine what an author or a poet is describing. So I gave that example of Suzanne Collins with The Hunger Games. If you've read that book before, it goes into great detail and a lot of description about the setting, okay, or about what the character looks like. So visualize the speaker's story of a lost love to better understand his feelings in Edgar Allan Poe's poem, Annabel Lee, all right? Making connections, you can make personal connections, and then that helps you understand thoughts and feelings of your characters. So have you ever felt really angry at a parent? All right, that's making a connection. I know I have those moments where I can think of times that I've been angry at my parents. I can think of times right now with my kiddos where they've been angry with me. Okay, so you can make connections that way. You can make inferences. So whenever an author doesn't explicitly state your you can make inferences to try to interpret those hidden meanings. So Casey at the Bat, which is a famous poem, tells what happens in a baseball game when one player steps into the batter's box. But you have to make inferences to understand how the sense of hope, drama, bravado, defeat, and humor, how that plays into it, okay? You can evaluate details. So sometimes a text is going to give you a lot of information, all right? And it's your job to determine what is the most important, okay? What's the most significant that's going to help me understand my story's meaning. You can synthesize, you can collect relevant information as you read that can help you understand and build on information. So building on to what is being given in the text, okay? And then finally, monitoring comprehension. So just being aware of what you do and don't understand. If you don't understand something from the text, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having to go back and reread a page or two. There's nothing wrong with going back a chapter before and having to figure out what you missed. We do that all the time with books. We do that all the times, even with movies or television shows. If we miss something, we'll rewind it, okay, if we're watching television or a movie, or we'll turn the page back several times to try to figure out what we missed. Because if you miss something, sometimes that can be the difference between understanding what is happening versus not, okay? So those are our strategies, okay? And like I said, that went through a lot more than what we're actually going to do in the practice, but it's still important to know that it's not just setting a purpose and generating questions. That's not the only way that you monitor your reading comprehension. Okay, so we're going to go up to number 4 to your turn. And we're going to try this out. So we've got some examples here. Okay, from the text, we've got the annotations, and then our job is to just drag and drop what strategy is being used. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna make sure there's no questions, no one has their hand up. All right, so reading comprehension strategy. So the text says Rikki Tikki Tavi by Rudyard Kipling. And then on the middle box, in the middle column, it says annotation. I read the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, which I enjoyed. I want to read this book because I think I might like his short story too. So with this annotation, are we making a connection? Are we setting a purpose? Are we generating questions, or are we making inferences? I've got one person with their hand up. Mackenzie R., go ahead. What do you think?
I think that's for reading.
Yep, you're setting a purpose for reading. So drag it and drop it. Okay, so right here, saying, I want to read this book. They're setting a purpose saying, I want to read this book because I think I might like the short story. Okay, I think I might enjoy the short story. Setting a purpose for reading can just be just for leisure, okay, just for entertainment. If you just want to read something just for entertainment, you're setting that purpose, okay? All right, go on to number 2. It says, this is the story of the Great War that Rikki Tikki Tavi fought single-handed through the bathrooms of the Big Bungalow in Sigoli Cantonment. Darzy the tailor bird helped him, and Chukundra the muskrat, who never comes out into the middle of the floor but always creeps around by the wall, gave him advice, but Rikki Tikki did the real fighting. Okay, so here's the annotation that was made. I'm wondering what the words bungalow and cantonment mean. Where do these animals live? Are we making a connection, generating questions, or making inferences? Nadia, go ahead.
Generating question.
Awesome. Drag it and drop it. So we want to know where these animals live. We're thinking about that. And when we read Rikki Tikki Tavi starting next week, that question is going to be in our head, okay, of where are they at overall, okay? And we'll get those answers as we read. Next one says, he was a mongoose, rather like a little cat in his fur and his tail, but quite like a weasel in his head and his habits. His eyes and the end of his restless nose were pink. He could scratch himself anywhere he pleased with any leg, front or back, that he chose to use. So the annotation states, I think quite like a weasel in his head and his habits and restless nose were pink are clues about the mongoose's personality. Are they making inferences or making a connection? Xander, go ahead.
They are making inferences.
Good job. So drag it and drop it. Yeah, so like if mongoose aren't native around here, okay? So you're kind of thinking like, okay, their personality, if they're like a weasel, okay, in his head and his habits, and then restless nose were pink, that goes into kind of determining, okay, what type of personality would they have, okay? So you're making those inferences in your head based on clues from the text, but also based on the background knowledge that you have. okay, in your head. Last but not least, one day a high summer flood washed him out of the burrow where he lived with his father and mother and carried him, kicking and clucking, down a roadside ditch. He found a little wisp of grass floating there and clung to it till he lost it. When he revived, he was lying in the hot sun on the middle of a garden path, very draggled indeed, and a small boy was saying, "Here's a dead mongoose, let's have a funeral." So the annotation says, "My brother and I once found an injured bird in our front yard, so I can understand the boy's reaction to seeing an animal and his connection." So just to double check that we are correct, are they making a personal connection, making a connection to that annotation with the text? If you're talking about something similar that has also happened to you, then yes, you want to, that's a personal connection. Okay, you're making a connection. So you should have in the following order: for number 1, setting a purpose for reading; for number 2, generating questions; for number 3, making inferences; and number 4, making connections. When you are finished and you have all 4 of those completed, you're going to submit your assignment at the bottom. It'll ask you something along the lines of, are you sure you want to submit? So just say yes, okay? And then we have completed the reading comprehension. So here's what I would like for it to happen for the next 7 minutes. I can't do math. 7 minutes. If you have a question for me about an assignment, okay? If you have anything that you need from me at this point where you're just confused or you don't know where to submit something or you don't know where to find it, please stay on, all right? We have until 11:15 technically. If you have everything turned in and you are confident in what's going on, you are free to go. But I know there's a couple of you that do need to kind of stick around and ask me some questions. So go ahead and make that decision. If you are leaving, have a good rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow. And then we'll kind of wait a little bit to get any questions answered. And I will get my Skyward and my Canvas pulled up on my personal computer to answer anything that we need. Okay, any questions that I can help you with whatsoever on assignments, where to turn something in,